Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run through the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature, as it is still fairly mild the next couple of days, but as we head into the middle of the week, northerly and then easterly winds will be coming in, bringing us generally colder conditions. We're not expecting anything bitterly cold yet, and probably not at least until March, but it will be turning a lot cooler. Temperatures in the daytime will be back down towards average, if not below average, so mid to maybe even high single digits, and overnight temperatures will be dropping down towards freezing, if not below freezing. And of course, with the wind direction coming in from the north or the east, there will be quite a significant wind chill in places, especially towards the coasts, where that wind is quite raw. As we see in the longer range on the GFS, GEM, ECMWF and the ensembles, there is the potential for even colder weather as we head into March. Of course, we've got the effects of the southern stratospheric warming propagating through the atmosphere, and there are signs from some of the main models that we could be seeing some proper northern blocking into the first week or two of March, and we are seeing ideas thrown out there for a bitterly cold north or northeasterly wind starting to appear. Again, it's got no major support as of yet, but the first thing we do see when one of these spells does come off is the operational runs starting to flirt with it, and we're seeing it definitely from the GFS, pretty typical of the GFS, but we're also starting to see hints from it on even the ECMWF this morning. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. So if we do start on the live radar, you can see it is generally dry, but across northern England, Northern Ireland and parts of Scotland, there are patches of light to moderate drizzle. Again, nothing too significant, but again, quite miserable under this, and elsewhere there will be some thicker cloud, but of course when you do avoid that cloud it'll be really quite nice, and again another sort of spring-like day. Temperatures in the lows, maybe even mid-teens, maybe 14 or 15 degrees in some places, so it could be really quite mild, so make do enjoy it. As I said in the past few videos, we could be plunged back into winter over the next few weeks, so do enjoy this sort of spring warmth we have at the moment, because it's something we might not see for another number of weeks. Of course, it is inevitable we will get towards proper spring and summer-like conditions, but with the SSW it could be delayed by a few weeks or up to potentially a month this year, so we'll have to see. If we do have a look at the temperatures, it's around 9 AM now. As I'm recording this, you can see those temperatures are already pretty mild. You'd be able to mistake these for high temperatures towards the end of February, and even then it would still be relatively mild. So temperatures in the low teens already, sort of 10 to 12 degrees, and expected to climb a few degrees higher. As said though, it will be turning a lot colder, so do go out and enjoy this over the course of the next couple of days. So we do now go over to the UKV and see how this cooler or colder weather starts to evolve over the next 5 days. You can see at the moment a bit of precipitation in the north, but nothing too significant. Thicker cloud elsewhere, but there still should be some breaks in the sunshine. As we head into Tuesday, you can see that more precipitation heads into the north and the west, and into the afternoon we see a more significant weather front starting to appear out from the Atlantic. Now this is the dividing line between the milder air and the cold Arctic air starting to push in. Now that eventually does spread through, weakens as it does, and behind it we see quite a showery and potentially quite wintry pattern with quite a few specks of pink, i.e. wintriness of developing within the showers, and maybe some proper snow over the highlands of Scotland. Again, the weather front does push through, and behind it this air mass is cold, but it's not amazingly cold, taking quite a long sea track through the North Atlantic, so it's been quite moderated, so it will generally give average temperatures in the day and maybe slightly below average temperatures overnight. As we head into Thursday, even cooler or colder air does start spreading from the north once again, and you can see some more widespread wintry showers as we start to develop a northeasterly wind come the end of the week. If you put on the upper air temperatures, you can see how that cold air does push in through Tuesday into Wednesday. Initially pretty chilly, but nothing especially cold. Slightly milder air pushes in, and then we see another wave of even colder air coming in from the northeast, and that will bring a proper chill to the air, and that could give more widespread wintriness and more widespread general cold. you look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon temperatures widely into the low to maybe mid-teens, 10 to 15 degrees, really quite mild, and overnight temperatures will not drop all too much, maybe 8 or 9. As we head into Tuesday, again, temperatures still generally mild, but slightly cooler, 10 to 12 degrees. And then into Wednesday, overnight temperatures dropping away a little bit more in the north and the west. By Wednesday afternoon, quite a bit cooler, maybe 7 to 9 in the south and the east, more around that 5 to 7 further northwards and westwards. And it will turn widely cooler through Thursday, potentially an overnight frost there, and temperatures back towards the mid-single digits, maybe 5 to 8 degrees. And again, with a bit more of a wind chill, feeling cooler. As we head into Friday, overnight temperatures not too bad as we are in a transient air mass there, but turning a lot cooler into Saturn. You can see there widespread overnight frost appearing, and that's just setting the scene for that cold northeasterly or easterly winds. I must stress though, it's not going to be turning bitterly cold. There could be some winteriness around, but I'm not expecting at this stage to see anything widespread in terms of snow or widespread in terms of very cold conditions. That is something that could happen into March. This is just generally cold weather that we do expect to see this time of year, but it is just quite a big contrast to what we do have at the moment. So it will take quite a hit out there with this lot colder air pushing in. If you do now have a look at the GFS and see what that does produce over the course of the next couple of weeks, again, you can see a westerly flow in the moment, but a northerly wind does come in. That's that transient cold air mass pushing in. But we see properly cold air pushing in from the north or northeast come the end of the week. High pressure does build to our north. We're pulling in a chilly easterly wind as well. Nothing especially cold at this stage, but cold enough to give widespread cooler than average conditions, overnight frosts, and maybe a few wintry showers in the south, further northwards, probably more drier, settled weather. As we head into the first couple of days of March, you can see that high pressure moving towards Greenland, very cold air flooding into northeast Europe, up towards Scandinavia. And look what happens. It starts to get pulled into the UK. This run isn't quite as sharp with that ridge, so slower evolution and not as cold air does push in, and it's not quite as unsettled. But the 6 o'clock run from last night, if we just briefly look at that for the same time period, you can see an even sharper northeasterly wind that would be sending us extremely cold ice days and widespread snow with that. But the latest run, which we'll of course have a look at, does have that high pressure still to our northeast, and it eventually does pull a low pressure system across us. Within that cold air could be some heavy snow. Again, the big change with this is the stratospheric polar vortex, with all its cold air, has been pushed towards the Siberian side, with higher pressure replacing it towards Canada and Greenland, which does encourage northerly or easterly winds in the North Atlantic. A big negative NAO, and these are the effects of a sudden stratospheric warming. So that is what we are seeing at this stage. So potentially very cold weather appearing from the GFS. But remember, this is all day 10 and beyond, and it doesn't have a huge amount of support from the ensemble members as of yet. Again, we look at the potential equivalent temperature. You can see frigid conditions pushing in for the UK, and when that low runs through, could be some heavy snow with that, and generally some very cold conditions. Again, you look at the temperature deviation, you can see how much warmer than average towards northern Canada and Greenland, and much colder than average towards Siberia and northern Europe. Again, very much indicative of a sudden stratospheric warming, with all that cold air getting pushed out of the poles. Now, if we do have a look at the GM, see how that does compare. Again, a northerly flow coming in, the high pressure builds to our north, an easterly wind comes in. But towards day 10, no huge signs of anything much colder at this stage. We do see high pressure starting to build towards southern Greenland. Again, that could produce cold weather beyond day 10. But if we look at the northern hemisphere, no real signs of any major blocking as of yet. And the stratospheric polar vortex is fairly well spread out and fairly well distributed. No signs of any huge displacement as of yet. So GM could still do what the GFS did, but not quite in the same time frame. And you look at the upper air temperatures, even on this run, the easterly does produce cooler air for a time, but actually eventually originates milder air from the southeast. So this is complete contrast. It would probably still be a little bit chilly. Easterly flow this time of year is cool or cold, simply because the continents, the ground is cold, so at the surface it would be chilly, even if the upper air temperatures are generally mild. So we'll have to see exactly what happens with that, but no risk of any snow or anything widely cold with this pattern at all. But definitely probably not the favoured pattern at this stage, as we'll see from the ECMWF and the ensembles. If you do move to the ECMWF, again, northerly flow coming in by the end of this week, and eventually a northeasterly flow coming in, and easterly winds. Again, quite a cold air mass initially, but towards day 10, look what happens. Very similar to the GFS. High pressure up towards Greenland, low pressure plunging out of the North Pole into Scandinavia and Northern Europe, and you can see bitterly cold air starting to appear. And expect, if you gave this another couple of days, all that cold air to head towards Northern Europe, potentially the UK, as that high pressure builds towards Greenland. So yes, it doesn't produce anything bitterly cold at day 10, and as you'll see in the ensemble chart, it doesn't produce anything bitterly cold simply because it doesn't run out beyond day 10. But as we can see from the chart, this would, if we let it evolve another couple of days, this would produce something extremely cold and potentially snowy as well. But the most important part is a very similar pattern to the GFS. So perhaps this Greenland high, some sort of blocking up towards Iceland, Greenland, Northern Atlantic is looking at the most likely scenario perhaps over the course of the next couple of weeks. So do finish by having a look at the ensembles. These are the latest GFS ensembles. You can see it does turn colder towards the end of this week into the start of next week. A good few degrees below average. And again, the average this time of year is cold. It's around -1 or -2 degrees at 850 HPA. So below average is cold. And it will remain below average all the way to the first day of March. There is some uncertainty there, some big spread, some very cold runs appearing beyond that, including the operational GFS, but also some very mild runs. So as I said, the pattern we are seeing recurring from the operational run is for that Greenland high, but the ensemble members definitely haven't not caught onto it as of yet, as we're still seeing significant numbers still average to above average. So we'll have to see exactly how that does develop. Again, if we look at the dew points, very low, all around freezing generally in the longer term. Again, showing it is a cold continental airflow or Arctic airflow. And you can see right in the extended range towards the first week of March, some really cold runs appearing, -5 to -10, and even one run producing a -25 degree dew point. Again, I don't think that is particularly realistic, but just showing you it's bitterly cold air from some of these runs appearing from the north and east. If you finish by having a look at the ECMWF ensemble members, again, quite a similar pattern, cold over the next sort of 5 to 6 days from around Wednesday, and then it generally turns a little bit milder, not quite as much support for cooler easterly winds. But of course, that pattern doesn't really properly evolve into early March, and as I said, we're seeing a lot of uncertainty. So we'll have to see what happens. The operation run's definitely more bullish on colder, more blocked weather in the longer term. And you could say they are pushing onto something because they are high resolution. They're seeing more. They're seeing the effects from the southern stratospheric warming earlier than the ensemble members are. And we'll just have to keep an eye on it. As I said a number of days ago, even a couple of weeks ago, we're expecting a lot of volatile weather charts over the course of the next few days, the next couple of weeks, simply because the models are not good at forecasting SSWs. But of course, we will have to see. The potential is there. We're just going to have to decipher it over the course of the next couple of weeks. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.